It's a week before Christmas, and all through the House, not a creature is stirring. Not even a bill that would avoid another government shutdown, although government shutdowns may be seen as a sense of progress rather than a failure. With that, we welcome you to the Ferris Network on television. And first tonight, it's beginning to look a lot like chaos. Republicans have already started to fight amongst themselves. And perhaps you could say with good reason, sometime in the next 72 hours, Congress will vote to spend trillions of more dollars that we do not have. There's going to be a bill somewhere between 1,400 and 1,800 pages, longer than the Bible. It's known as a continuing resolution, which sounds like the worst Christmas present anyone could ever get, and it basically is. The bill is going to contain endless waste, fraud, and abuse. But nobody voting on it will have had time to read it. And there are a couple of honest Republicans now up on Capitol Hill who are willing to say just that.
The swamp's going to swamp, right? 1,400 pages. Still haven't seen the text.
It's a total dumpster fire. I think it's garbage. It's shameful that people that celebrate Doge coming in, and yet we're going to vote for another $1 billion to be added to the deficit.
We're evidently going to take a 1,800-page document that we really hadn't read and going to pass it, add more debt. Very frustrating. It's opposite of what the Doge Commission is trying to do. So, am I voting for it? No, I'm not.
And this brings up an important point. We've been talking about this now since Doge was announced. Doge has absolutely zero power and never will, because it is not a government commission. It's not part of the executive branch or part of Congress. It's something totally outside the government. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy can talk all they want. The way business is being done in Washington by Republicans is how business is going to be done. The bill is sort of like a Christmas tree. Congress is adding more ornaments to the tree to dress up their end-of-year goals to spend more money. You can always agree on that in Washington. It didn't have to be this way. But there is such a thin Republican majority in the House, that's for this Congress and the next one, that Speaker Mike Johnson needs Democrats to vote yes.
We had these massive hurricanes, as you know, in the late fall, Helene and Milton and other disasters. We have to make sure that the Americans that were devastated by these hurricanes get the relief they need. So we are adding to this a disaster relief package, and that's critically important. So what would have been a very skinny, very simple, clean CR has been added. These other pieces have been added to it.
There's always an excuse. This is business as usual in Washington, and it's not what people voted for. A new poll by our friends, Carly Cooperman among them, shows that while voters are less trusting of the government as a result of this election, 40% believe the government will be more effective at getting things done going forward. That means 60% do not believe it will be more effective at getting things done. The issue is we are watching the same play over and over again with disastrous results. The slim Republican majority in the House, and they already have vocal dissent. It proves what we've been telling you all along. There's really no interest among Republicans to deal with the tough issues, to make the really hard decisions. Sure, they'll talk about how toilet seats can be less expensive and we need to fire federal workers and all that. But more importantly, just a couple of Republicans now standing on principle or protecting spending in their districts can sink any legislation. So this is how business is going to be done with Republicans going forward. The next Congress will face huge decisions that require adults making compromises and taking tough votes. You know, doing the job of legislating, not just bloviating on television. This week does not give us a lot of hope. With us now, Senator Ted Cruz of the state of Texas, member of the Judiciary Committee. Good to see you, sir. As always, nothing gets senators and congressmen together like agreeing to spend money right before Christmas so you can all catch your flight home. Is this, though, a way to govern?
Well, look, it's not the right way to govern. We ought to be passing appropriations bills using regular order, moving through the year, addressing it department by department. But I got to tell you, under Senate Democrats, they don't want to do that. They won't take up appropriations bills. They won't vote on them. So instead, the only choice is either pass a continuing resolution or have the government shut down. And that's a choice that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats made. Okay. My hope is next year, when we have President Trump in office and a Republican Senate and a Republican House, that we move in a timely manner and take up each appropriations bill and move it forward. And we'll see whether the Democrats are willing to participate in that process or whether they try to obstruct that process.
I don't have to tell you that hope is not really a governing philosophy or a strategy.
True enough.
Fair enough. So I look to next year. You only got a couple of members in the House for a majority. You got 3 Republicans in the Senate for a majority. Are we going to be right back here, and I'm going to hear from you blaming Senate Democrats over and over and over again? At what point does the majority, which is the House, which is where spending bills start, is it Republicans' responsibility to actually take a stand on some of these issues?
Well, it doesn't work as long as you have Chuck Schumer as Senate Majority Leader who refuses to move appropriation bills that come out of the House. And so what I can tell you is I'm incredibly optimistic about the next 2 years. You look at the election we had in November, the results were overwhelming. The American people, you look at the 7 battleground states, Donald Trump won all 7. The American people reelected Donald Trump. Not only that, they elected a Republican House and a Republican Senate, 5 new Republican senators flipping seats. We now have 53 Republican senators that are coming in next year. And I think as a result of this election, we have a real mandate. Number one, we are going to secure the border. If there's one very clear outcome from this election, it's that the American people are fed up with the Democrats' open borders. We are going to see border policy change on January 20th of next year when Donald Trump takes the oath of office. And Leland, I'm going to predict to you right now, it's not going to take a year or even 6 months to secure the border. We will see it happen in January and February of next year. We will see, because the damage that was done to the border was done through unilateral policies by Biden.
But at some point, if Republicans want to live up to any of the promises they've made and deal with some of the real substantive issues, it's going to have to be done in the House, and it's going to have to be done in the Senate. We've got Republicans fighting with Republicans in the House right now. What gives the American people any hope that Republicans aren't going to screw this up like they have in the past, bickering amongst themselves?
Yeah, look, that is a real risk. I will say in the House, we have an excruciatingly small majority. It makes it very difficult. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, may have the single most difficult job in all of government. What I believe we will do next year, when we have a Republican Senate that is willing to work with the Republican House, we are going to take up 2 separate budget reconciliation bills. Now, what does that mean? That is Washington speak for a bill that can't be filibustered, that the Democrats cannot block. The first one, we are going to provide major funding to secure the border. I believe we're going to get that done. We're going to lead in the Senate. We have a mandate from the American people to secure the border. We're going to do that. Secondly, we are going to take up another budget reconciliation bill, and this one is going to be to extend the 2017 tax cuts that are expiring next year, and my hope is to make them bigger and bolder. You look at the election, the American people want to see the economy roaring.
I appreciate
they want to see inflation
under
control. They want to see energy.
I get that.
You asked what we're going to do. I'm telling you what we're going to do.
I get all that. None of that deals with the major problem facing America right now, twofold. One is a crumbling military. This from the fellow who wrote Black Hawk Down, the crumbling foundation of America's military. The U.S. failed to produce weapons and ammunition fast enough to supply Ukraine. Could it equip its own armed forces in the event of war? Issue number 2, and at one point you got a lot of accolades for telling the truth about where America is fiscally, which is going off a cliff if we don't deal with Medicare reform, we don't deal with Social Security reform. That's neither of the things that you talked about dealing with. And I think there's a lot of Americans who are watching right now and who are saying if Republicans, all they can do is bicker amongst themselves about these things, they are unserious.
Well, Leland, I will say it may be a bit premature for you to be reporting on the failure of the incoming Republican Congress, given that the Republican Congress hasn't been sworn in yet.
Okay.
Listen, at the end of the day, when it comes to rebuilding the military, I agree with you. We need to invest far more in rebuilding the military, and elections have consequences. Right now, Chuck Schumer is the majority leader. The Democrats have the majority in the Senate, and Joe Biden is still the president, although it'd be difficult to find him or figure out what he's doing right now. But as long as that is the case, you can't rebuild the military because the Democrats refuse to go along. Next year, in January, the new Republican majorities will come in. Judge us by what we do. I fully agree with that. But I don't think it's fair to blame Republicans for Chuck Schumer's refusal to secure the border, refusal to cut taxes, refusal to rein in job-killing regulations, and his ongoing war on energy. Listen, the American people want inflation down. We are going to see the Democrats' war on energy end next year.
Okay.
That is going to drive inflation down. That is going to bring jobs back. And so judge us on what we do.
Okay, that's fair.
But the new majority isn't in office yet.
No, that is a totally fair point. We've often said on this program, never underestimate Republicans' ability to screw things up, but you all deserve a fair shot with majorities. This is how Donald Trump is saying he is going to deal with those who oppose some of his nominees, and I'm wondering if that also extends to opposing some of his policy proposals. Take a listen.
If they're unreasonable, if they're opposing somebody for political reasons or stupid reasons, I would say has nothing to do with me. I would say they probably would be primaried. But if they're reasonable, fair, and really disagree with something or somebody, I can see that happening.
We've talked about your razor-thin majority in the House. Senators are known to have minds of their own, especially when you've got a lame duck president, and many senators whose terms are going to be beyond even Donald Trump's time in office. Is threatening everybody the right way to start off your administration?
Listen, Donald Trump is fighting for his nominees. I don't think anyone is surprised at that. I think this is a very strong slate of nominees. I believe all of the president's cabinet nominees are going to be confirmed. The Senate's responsibility of advice and consent is important. We will have vigorous confirmation hearings, but we're going to move expeditiously. We're going to move forward and confirm. I think, as I said, I think the entire slate will be confirmed. And of course, the president's fighting for his nominees. That's what you'd expect.
It is what you expect. Thank you, sir. As you said, I was going to ask, do you think it's going to work? You predicted it will. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, we all hope that we're not here next week talking about this, right?
Amen. I think everyone would like to be home with their families for Christmas, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of moving parts. So we'll see what comes out of the House and what comes out of the Chuck Schumer Senate.
All right, fair enough. Merry Christmas, Senator. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Take care.
Players and owners in the WNBA are screaming about Caitlin Clark's success. The real reason they're trying to kill their golden goose and why the media is letting them.
Caitlin Clark did for the WNBA what Wayne Gretzky did for the NHL when he went to the LA Kings. It's okay. Take a victory lap.
I was running until I wasn't. My hospital stay would have cost nearly $48,000, even with insurance. But with VA, I'll pay zero. And VA is the best, most affordable healthcare in America for veterans like me. Knowing that my family is waiting at home and a surprise medical bill isn't, that's good for my heart. My service was then, my benefits are now. Get what you earned. Visit choose.va.gov.
Not all veterans are eligible for the type or amount of benefits mentioned here.
Welcome back. The growing anger surrounding Caitlin Clark's success shows a dark truth about women's basketball and those who claim to be fans. If you have a daughter or a granddaughter, you know who Caitlin Clark is. There she is, Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. The Indiana Fever point guard was recently named that. Normally, people get celebrated when they're named something like Athlete of the Year, especially since she's changed the economics of women's basketball and completely saved the sport. Clark gets paid $76,000 a year, and yet she is responsible, single-handedly, for almost 27% of the league's $200 million revenue. She is responsible for 1 in 6 tickets sold. And the TV ratings for games she plays in are 300% higher than the ones she doesn't. The economics are indisputable. In 1 year, Clark has turned the league around. Yet players and even the owners of the WNBA, for some reason, resent her being celebrated by Time.
Why couldn't they have put the whole WNBA on that cover and said, the WNBA is the league of the year because of all the talent that we have? Because when you just keep singling out one player, it creates hard feelings.
They had all the talent before. Nobody watched. Nobody bought tickets. Nobody bought jerseys until Caitlin Clark showed up. And what she said, especially for a sports team owner, sounds a little off, right? You never heard Robert Kraft of the New England Patriots say, hey, why is everybody talking about Tom Brady? They wanted you to talk about Tom Brady. Sports has always highlighted its star players. That's why there's MVPs, Hall of Fame, starting players, there's stars. But this time it happens to be a white player singled out in the WNBA. And it seems to be a problem for some. So let's just think about the reverse here. The PGA, for example, embraced a very young Tiger Woods as he became the first black phenom in the sport. If they had not embraced him, they would have been called racist, and rightfully so. ESPN and PHLY sports analyst, 3-time All-American Renee Washington with us. Now, Renee, good to have you on the program. Thank you. Is this all about race, or is there something deeper than that?
I think it is deeper, actually. I think race is a big foundation and reason why we are having these outcries from people. But I think the reality is it's been a great year for women in sports in 2024 altogether. And I think the narrative of how people talk about Caitlin Clark creates division, essentially. So, this is her coming into a league off of the backs of some great talented women that have really set the foundation of what this league is, and her taking it to another level, her as well as her rookie class. And Caitlin Clark is a generational talent. She's a one of a kind. But the reality is the WNBA is only 28 seasons in. So it was going to always take them time to reach the heights of a league like the NBA, which is 50 years ahead of the game. So I think Caitlin Clark has helped to bust open some doors.
So why the resentment of her? I just can't figure that out.
Well, I think because there are people that did not pay attention to the WNBA prior to Caitlin Clark. And once you followed her at Iowa and she broke scoring records and set all these records as a women's basketball player, it opened a lot of people's eyes to the game of basketball on the women's side. For so long, women's sports have been seen as softer, less exciting, less entertaining, and Caitlin Clark brought that. And I think what
I can't figure out is why not celebrate it? She was basically forced in her Time magazine interview to walk this back, to talk about her white privilege. She's been criticized since the day she showed up in the WNBA, and there's been a lot of folks, both the owners and players, who've been really resentful of her. She almost seems to have to apologize for her success. A good buddy of mine sent me this. He has a daughter who loves Caitlin Clark. Take it a step back. If women, white or black, had supported the league before now, ratings would have been much better. If black men had watched and supported black female players, ratings would have been higher. Fact is, both sexes, white and black, are watching more because of Caitlin. She has absolutely nothing to be sorry about. Is he right?
He's absolutely right. But I think the problem is that so many people are trying to paint this out as Caitlin versus the WNBA. And it's made more and more comments. When you hear the comments that are coming out, even with her being named Women's Time Athlete of the Year, more comments are coming out in this defensive narrative because for so long, any foul, any technical, any hard play against Caitlin was seen as the players dislike her. They hate her. They want to beat up on her. And that's not the case. The reality is there's a lot of talent. They respect each other. They battle on the court. But for Caitlin Clark, she's tremendous in what she's accomplishing for not only the WNBA, but basketball in general. But the narrative that's controlled outside of the league is impacting what's happening inside the league. It's the media, it's fans, it's misogynistic comments, it's racist comments that are impacting the overall narrative that
I love nothing more than when people blame the media, though. And it's not the media's fault that a WNBA owner went on and said, hey, why couldn't they put the whole league on the cover? It still is a non sequitur.
I disagree with Sheila Johnson's comments. I absolutely do. It's an athlete of the year. It's not a league of the year. It's an individual award. And there are people, and I don't never feel like there's one blanket that covers everyone. There are people that absolutely, such as Sheila Johnson's comments, have come out on the side of the WNBA, on the side of women's basketball, and been against her and made comments that have essentially taken away from what she's accomplished. Right. And that's unfair to what Caitlin Clark has done. But I will say there are people, including, and I'm a media member myself, we have to all be mindful of the words that we're using. This should not be black versus white. This should not be men versus women. This should not be the WNBA versus Caitlin. This should be her helping to amplify the league. And unfortunately, the continuous narrative, and there are so many, the reality is, Leland, we've also seen more and more hateful comments, trolls, posts, videos on either side of the spectrum. And I think for Caitlin to continue to try to stay grounded in, I just love to play the game. I'm doing what's best for basketball. I'm doing what's best for the league, for my team, and trying to continue to get everyone to see that same mindset of forget black versus white or anything else.
Look, the example she sets on the court is phenomenal for young players, right? For anybody who wants to be involved in sports. The example I think she sets off the court may be even better. Renee, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Great and insightful thoughts. Joe Biden has quietly quit on America and on his party. Democrats are in disarray. It's the perfect time for President Trump to get everything on his Christmas wish list. We'll tell you why Trump might miss the opportunity.
Guys, if you're looking for style, comfort, and versatility, check out the latest collections from Versed. Whether you're hitting the gym or tackling your daily routine, Verst's wide selection of menswear blends proven performance with a functional and classical look. Their new fleece collections are designed with premium fabrics, the perfect layered style that keeps you feeling good and looking even better. Explore the latest from Verst for next-level comfort and elevated style. Available only at Dick's Sporting Goods. Shop now at dicks.com/Verst.
It has 33 days left in the White House. You can see it lit up for Christmas there. Given the way things are going in America, you'd think he left the building months ago. We've been telling you now that President Biden is missing in action. Now Democrats are getting angry. 3 former Obama staffers who make up Pod Save America. They are the Pod Bros, as they like to call themselves, the progressive thinkers on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. They're catching on, and they are not happy with Joe Biden.
I guess what I'm more concerned about is less like, am I seeing Joe Biden enough? Maybe he's right that people don't want to hear from him. It's more like, do I feel confident right now that Joe Biden behind the scenes is thinking of every single way he can try to future-proof the White House, that he's thinking through all the different levers of powers, the kind of creative ways in which he can do everything to protect everyone from like undocumented DACA recipients to trans people to the benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act.
To be fair, the president's team put out a memo Sunday laying out his plans. Think of it as a race to the finish line. Run through the tape. The list includes things like pushing $2 billion in aid to Ukraine, mulling preemptive pardons for people who could be targeted by Donald Trump, considering commutations for death row prisoners, revisiting student loan forgiveness, and spending funds from the Inflation Reduction Act before Team Trump tries to either repeal it or impound the money. The administration just finalized a rule banning junk fees, capping overdraft fees at large banks, along with new seatbelt regulations for automakers. But all of that is not enough for Democrats. They're furious that Biden isn't doing more. Somehow he's not Trump-proofing the White House enough. And here's the kicker. You actually heard it on the podcast. We linked to it in more notes. They want Biden giving speeches about defending democracy and have even suggested Biden give a press conference or two. Eric Erickson is with us, host of the nationally syndicated Eric Erickson Show, author of the book, You Shall Be as Gods, Pagans, Progressives, and the Rise of the Woke Gnostic Left. Also the author of Show Notes. I subscribe. I suggest you at home do as well. Eric, good to see you. Is Joe Biden's sort of disappearance from public eye while still pushing all these things through a gift or a danger to Republicans?
I think it's kind of a danger to Republicans in that the media will tend to focus on Donald Trump more than what's going on in the White House. And a lot of people will take these things that the Biden administration is doing as, oh, well, they've always been there. when they have it. I do think Republicans need to raise some level of awareness. Like, for example, auctioning off pieces of the border wall that has escalated here towards the end of this administration. Raising the profile of those issues, I think Republicans need to do and make it less about Donald Trump and more about an exit strategy for a man the public just rejected.
What is Biden's, for lack of a better term, strategy as you see it? And does that set up a situation where on day one, January 20th, Donald Trump inherits in some ways a dumpster fire and then all of these problems become his fault?
Yeah, look, I don't actually think Biden has a coherent strategy himself, but I do think that his team is trying to set the stage for blame when Donald Trump comes into office. Suddenly, I think some members of the press who haven't been interested in grocery prices will become very interested in grocery prices. And look at the decline of the stock market this week. We haven't seen this since Jimmy Carter was president. On his way out, suddenly Donald Trump will inherit some level of economic turmoil. We'll see what the Fed does with interest rates as well. I do think there are concerns for the GOP. However, that being said, when you look at Trump's presidential approval rating right now, which is above 50% for the first time ever, I think a lot of people are willing to show him some grace on his way in because they're pretty livid with Joe Biden on the way out.
Yeah, I'm wondering, actually, I think you make a good point, why Republicans aren't talking about this stuff more. They're sort of giving Joe Biden a pass. I find it fascinating how angry Democrats are with Joe Biden when they are the same group that protected him for so long. Donald Trump, on the other hand, now going on his, some would call it revenge tour, but sued ABC, got the big settlement. Now he is suing the Des Moines Register because they published a poll that he didn't like. For too long, left-wing pollsters have attempted to influence electoral outcomes through manipulated polls that have unacceptable error rates and are not grounded in widely accepted polling methodologies. Does he risk sort of trading what was a huge, I think, even more moral than legal victory over ABC News and George Stephanopoulos because they paid so their emails and texts wouldn't come out, into now becoming a little bit of a joke? Because now when you're suing people because of polls you don't like, that changes the dynamic.
It does. Look, Ann Selzer had a terrible last poll. She's the dean of American polling. She actually has a brilliant career. She got more right than she got wrong. Her one that she retired on was the worst poll I think she's ever done. At the same time, she used legitimate methodologies. This wasn't stacking the deck. And in fact, if anything, the paper can and is arguing that this might have mobilized Republicans to turn out in Iowa. And so maybe it wasn't wrong. Maybe it helped Republicans. There's no way to prove that. It's a stupid lawsuit. And he does risk getting sanctions from a judge who has enough of the sort of bullying of people he doesn't like.
What do you see as the strategy right now coming out of Mar-a-Lago? It's totally different, right, than Trump 2016 in the transition. I think it's fair to put you in the Trump skeptical Republican category. You are willing to call balls and strikes. Do you see this strategy as a different Donald Trump?
Yeah, I see it as a more professional team around him. He's been there once. He knows this now. He's surrounded with much more professional operatives this time around him who know how to navigate Washington better. This is one thing that Democrats are a little bit concerned about is he's able to move way faster than he did his first term. They'll have the bulk of his picks done before January 20th, where last time he was there, it took him 6 months into the administration to get to that point.
Good point. And then the flip side is, do you screw it up with suing the Des Moines Register? Eric, you are one of our favorite guests. We don't say that to everybody, but we are asking for 2025 predictions. Here are the questions, and we are marking and saving the tape. We begin. Will at least one of Trump's political opponents be indicted by the end of next year?
I have a hard time seeing that as the case.
All right.
I'm going to go with no.
No indictments of Trump's political opponents. All right. Will Russia and Ukraine agree to a peace deal?
Yes.
Will Congress pass a border bill that Trump will end up signing?
Yes.
All right. Will Kamala Harris run for governor of California?
Oh, that one, I'm going to go with yes. She needs something to do.
Well, you can make a lot of money on the lecture circuit. Will stocks be up or down compared to this year? We're going to try to ask Nancy Pelosi this question, but she wasn't available, so you're up.
I'm going to go with they'll be down.
Down, okay. That'll be interesting. Complicated for Donald Trump. How many cabinet members will Trump fire by this time next year?
I won't say fire, but I will say at least one will be pushed out the door by the end of next year.
Will Elon Musk still be in Trump's inner circle 1 year from now?
I have a hard time seeing that. I'm going to go with no.
No. Why? That's my most fascinating one.
Because anyone who flies too close to the sun around Donald Trump winds up with melted wings, and Elon Musk is very close to getting way more attention than Trump, something Trump doesn't like.
He is getting a lot of attention. How much attention is going to be focused on him once this Doge thing begins?
I think a lot more attention, and to the extent that it's turned against Donald Trump by Democrats in the press, he's going to blame Elon Musk.
There you go. Eric Erickson, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you and yours, my friend.
You too.
All right. Forget dressing up for Christmas Eve, roasting turkey for Christmas dinner, or visiting a winter wonderland. There is live pictures of Las Vegas, Nevada, where they certainly know how to bling out Christmas. There is a new Christmas tradition taking over America. And we will tell you why it is a terrible, terrible thing.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Intelligence claims to have killed a top-ranking Russian general with a scooter bomb. Rather, a bomb hidden in a scooter, straight out of a James Bond movie. 300 grams of TNT strapped to a scooter detonated next to the general and his assistant, killing them both. General Igor Kilov was the head of Russia's nuclear defense forces. He's known for spreading misinformation on U.S. biowarfare labs in Ukraine. His assassination comes just one day after Ukraine accused him of using banned chemical weapons. Dmitry Alperovich joins us, co-founder, executive chairman of the Silverado Policy Accelerator, author of The World on the Brink, How China Can Beat China in the Race for the 21st Century. Dmitry, welcome back. Good to see you. Is this really James Bond-like, or given sort of Ukraine and Russia's long history, is it pretty easy for them to have pulled this off?
Well, it's never easy to go into the foreign capital where you have the FSB, the Russian intelligence service, everywhere, and able to actually penetrate into the capital, set up, of course, a scooter next to a general that's pretty well protected, a high-level official. So you've got to give the Ukrainians credit for this. This is really well done. But of course, this is not their only operations. They've provided drones to the Syrian rebels that help to defeat Assad's army and potentially constrain Russia's operations in Syria. They've helped rebels across Africa to assassinate Wagner forces there. So they're trying to hurt Russia wherever they can.
Are they succeeding? Dmitry, I don't know if you've lost me, the audio here. Are they succeeding?
Well, they're succeeding in terms of causing pain for Putin, in terms of letting every Russian official know that they can potentially be targeted for assassination, particularly if they've been involved in illegal activities like use of chemical weapons in Ukraine, of which they've documented almost 5,000 cases of using chemical agents on Ukrainian troops. But of course, in terms of the situation in the war zone itself in Ukraine, things are not going well. The Russians are gaining. And in fact, their rate of advance is the highest it's been since the war began, really, in the spring of 2022.
You're painting a picture, right, where Ukraine is sort of desperate, hence this operation in Moscow that they're trying to sort of target Russians in different ways because of their losses on the battlefield. If you think about sort of from a Russian perspective, this general's killed, that doesn't seem, I think, that it would scare Putin as much as it would probably either enrage or embolden him, right?
Yeah, this is probably the only thing that they're trying to attempt here is really send a message. If you're involved in use of chemical weapons against our troops, we will target you. So maybe think twice about that. But this is not going to stop the war. One general is going to be replaced. So we have to be realistic that this is not strategic, but it is tactical successes. And look, it's received very well in Ukraine itself, where, of course, they're under constant bombardment from the Russians. And they like to see these wins where their enemies get killed, especially in their home city.
What should we take from the fact that the Ukrainians had the ability to do this? Is that there's sort of a new gear that Ukraine has, or that this is the last stand of a desperate nation?
No, I think their intel operations have gotten better and better. They've been able to recruit more sources, sometimes even unwitting sources. You may remember when they were able to attack the bridge in Crimea, the Kursk bridge, they used a truck bomb, but the driver of that truck was an unwitting agent. He didn't know what he was driving, that he was driving this explosive, and obviously he perished in it. So they've gotten much better at recruiting sources in Russia and using them for these sorts of operations.
Dmitry Alperovich, as always, interesting. Thank you, my friend. Merry Christmas to you and yours. We'll talk in the new year.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. There is a new Christmas tradition taking over the country. It's a new Christmas tradition, but we're going to tell you why it is actually not that good for America. See you in a minute.
Bored at home? Head over to Chumba Casino and join some serious social casino fun. With hundreds of games at your fingertips, no purchase necessary. You can play anytime, anywhere. There's a special welcome bonus waiting for you when you sign up. Play for fun. Play for free. And you could even redeem some great prizes. Visit ChumbaCasino.com and get ready to reel in the fun. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
I always knew my family was ahead of the curve when it came to Christmas traditions. We did Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve and then changed into new pajamas and lounged all Christmas Day. We were way ahead of the curve. In the interest of transparency, well, some of the Christmas pajamas were better than others. This, for example, is my sister and I on one such Christmas Eve night or Christmas morning in our new pajamas. You will note in this picture that my father is not there. And there's a reason for that, because he threatened to excommunicate me from the family if I ever showed him in the pajamas that match this picture. It does exist, though. 47% of Americans now say they would prefer to spend all of Christmas in their pajamas. It's glorious. You should try it sometime. The study comes from the St. Pierre Bakery. We are endeavoring to get the St. Pierre Bakery on tomorrow to discuss how they came up with trying to study this and how their pajama tradition started. Other polling from St. Pierre said that Americans have a new desire for pizza on Christmas night. That is a bridge too far. All of this, Christmas traditions, some of your Christmas traditions, will be in War Notes tomorrow. That's our newsletter that comes out every day at 4 p.m. Eastern. You go to warnotes.com to subscribe for free. You can also connect with us on social media at Leland Vittert on Instagram and that thing that used to be called Twitter. Not to spoil any Christmas surprises, but a couple of people on my list are getting books. For our younger viewers, books are things that you hold. They have paper pages, often hundreds of pages in them, and you read the books over a series of days or weeks. As book sales have gone down, bookstores keep having a harder time. Enter James Patterson, among the authors of many, many books, including the Alex Cross series. He's sold almost 500 million books. And he's giving $500 Christmas bonuses to employees at independent bookstores. With us now, New York Times bestselling author James Patterson. The latest book is called House of Cross. It is good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, man. 100%. You look great in pajamas.
Yeah, I thought I held the hat well.
We're going to have 26 over here for Christmas at the house. So, yeah.
Not in your pajamas, though.
Well, who knows? If people aren't coming in their pajamas, it's okay.
I love it. I love this Christmas tradition, giving bonuses to independent bookstores. How did it start? How's it going?
It's about 10 years. I blame everything on my mother and grandmother. They were big on sort of giving everything away. So that's kind of what I do. And the great thing about giving it to the booksellers is almost every one of them sends a note back. And the notes are so honest. And, like I gave, I got to the dentist this year. Thank you so much. Or for the first year in 5 years, I'm giving presents to my parents. So, these people work really hard and they don't make a lot of money. And so it's a really nice thing to do. And they're out there doing a good thing, which is getting people reading. I don't know, are book sales down? I don't think they are, actually. But you said that, but I'm not sure if that's correct. Mine aren't. So good for me.
Yours are the quality kind. It's interesting, though. Margaret Rankel just wrote in the New York Times, short books are perfect for our distracted age. Short books offer something to read when you want to surrender to a story for longer than an hour, but not for days and days. They're hefty enough to immerse yourself in and often short enough to finish before midnight, even with a distracted 21st century attention span, even with a headline-weary mind. Is there something about that the reader is changing?
Maybe the New York Times should take that advice and stop giving us 10,000 words every day, or whatever the hell they do. People are distracted for sure. They, the attention spans are short. I tried a few years ago. I tried to do a thing with novellas because I knew that was a real thing, and we still do that a little bit. The novellas. So for people who just want to do a book in a couple of hours. Actually, this summer I have a book for dads, which is going to be under 100 pages. To make dads better dads in 1 hour. And his purpose, it's not a gimmick, it's just a reality of, getting dads to read the 400-page book isn't going to happen for most dads anyway.
No, there's something to that. I want to get to this. The First Gentleman out June 2nd, 2025. This is Bill Clinton on you. Jim and I have always had a great time writing together, but we've admittedly pretty tough on our fictional president. We've sent one chief executive into hiding to stop a global terror attack, thrust another into a deadly firefight to protect his family. In our new book, we take the gloves off. And evidently, this is where the First Gentleman is accused of murder. I'm wondering where you possibly came up with some of your themes or ideas.
Well, it wasn't, as you know, President Clinton could have been the first gentleman. That would have changed the world a little bit because then Hillary would have been the boss of bosses. This isn't about Bill and Hillary, but it is about the first woman president, and her husband goes on trial for murder. So that's kind of a good idea for a book. And I think it turned out pretty good. We just actually signed up a screenwriter, a really good screenwriter. I'm not allowed to announce it because they don't announce that stuff to do the movie. So we're excited about that. I just talked to the president yesterday, and he's pumped. He was talking about his Christmas plans too. So we're all excited about Christmas.
Is there something about, and I'm thinking that sort of this newfound fascination with politics, right? Donald Trump, think whatever you want about him. As a president, he's great for ratings, and he's great for sales and conversation about politics. Does that sort of help your guys?
He's great for ratings from CNN or MSNBC. They're down like 50% this year, right?
Since the election, yes.
Since the election, yeah.
We're up, by the way, in case you're wondering.
There's a lot of bad stuff going on, obviously. People are acting out their violent fantasies. A couple of attempts on President Trump.
Yeah.
What happened yesterday, the poor guy shot in the back. So people are acting out their violent fantasies. That's just a horrifying thing. It's good for thriller writers in a sense because people are going, well, sort of anything's possible. So we'll keep writing the
fiction can get stranger. It can make more sense now.
Well, maybe. Well, I think we just want happy endings, or we want closure, which we don't get a lot of time.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Please.
Right.
Good thing for Christmas. Give them that book, and then my book or somebody else's. Give them something to do over the holidays besides worry about stuff.
Well, there's something to that, being able to spend a little bit of time during the holidays with a book. It's almost like spending it with a
you don't have to wait until June 2nd. You can actually get an Alice Cross book.
Mr. Patterson, it's always good to see you. Thank you for not wearing your pajamas. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, sir.
Okay.
Merry Christmas to you and yours. I'll see you back here tomorrow night. Here's Chris. More on the drones.